Welcome back, everyone. So, this is the third session of season two, and in this session, before we start working on codes, I like to change the theme of this VS Code, and because I'm tired of this, I need to change it. And since we are using the dark theme for a long time, let's switch to a light theme. And I'm one of those people who switches from light to dark, from dark to light, switches. So I'm a switch kind of person. So because some people they uh, just use dark mode, and just it looks they're some kind of vampire or something. They cannot use light mode, but I actually enjoy light mode, and so let's get back to our themes and let's search the theme. And for this theme that we have, I like to use a theme called One Light. So let's see if I have that. I have one dark, but I have one light. So you can actually go ahead and search and install a new theme here. So we can go to this extensions and search one light. Search that. There's Atom One Light. This is Atom One Light theme. This is it. So this is what I'm going to. Uh, uh, oh, I have already installed that. So set that. Okay, Atom One Light. Okay. So now I have set the theme, and this is actually the one light theme that I'm going to use. When we change the theme, the first moments you actually hate the theme, but don't worry, as we move on we actually realize and we start to appreciate the one and the light theme. Don't I promise you that. Don't worry about the theme if you hate this, and if you like this and enjoy this, so welcome to the team. And I'm going to clean this here so that we so you do not have that anymore. And so there's something that I need to tell you. We actually now changed our theme, okay? But some people usually do not do that in front of the camera. Maybe usually they do that in backstage, or they cut that from their video, but I did not do it because I like to be in a same journey as you are. And for example, when I change the theme, I think that I feel that you are with me all the time. And when I change the theme, when I actually go in a folder, when I make a mistake, everything, I want you to go through the same journey just like me. So that's why I do not cut these these parts from my video, or I do not do these kind of stuff at the backstage. So that's why I wanted to mention that. So let's get back to the result that we have. So this is the first section that we designed. Now it's time to go to the second section, but we will use CSS more to make it more pretty. But for now, let's have the structure for now. So let's get back to our code. And this is the form div that we have here. So we can actually come here and close this for temporary. And we can go at here, we can create a new div here, and we can assign a class to this, and this is actually our class form div here. And inside that we have a form group, just like we had class. The class would be form group as well, but let's see this input type checkbox. Okay, input type checkbox. This is something that we are going to see. This input type checkbox, and let's say what was the text inside that. United States. Let's see the result for now. Hit refresh, and as you can see, this is now United States, as we can see. But first of all, these two need to be aligned together. But since we selected every input, okay, and every input and every select and set a display to block and the width 100%, this is something that we need to fix. So for this input and select, we actually meant every input here, and for that case we actually meant to do that, yes. But here we do not want that with 100% for that label, for this inputs and display block. So there are so many different ways to fix that. For example, one way is actually give it another class. For example, give it a form div, for example, one, for example. This is one way, or any other name that you use, and say that inside this form div one, not inside general form, only inside this form div one. This one way to fix that, and we can come back here, hit refresh. For these two, the input is 100%, but we missed something. But for this one, the input is not 100%. And we can come back, just fix this display flex and everything for that. But this is one way to change those classes. But the another way is actually use not selector. Let's actually use that not selector so that you learn something new here. So let's come back here and Control Z on here, hit refresh, and as you can see, and for that not selector, let's start from a simple example, because this not selector that I'm going to use is actually going to become a little complicated. So let's first start with something simple. Let's imagine that I give it a class, and I give it a class of test. Okay. And this not selector is actually something like this. I can say go ahead and select every input inside general form, but not test class. So go ahead and select every input inside general form except everything that has a test class. So what happens is I can see that this is the result, and it's fixed. But we are not going to give this test class to every input type checkbox. Okay, this test was just a simple example that I wanted you to understand this not selector. What I'm actually need to say here, instead of this test class, let's clean this. Instead of this in this test class, and of course when I remove that class text, this will be undone. And for this, except this not selector, we need to understand something called attribute selector. What is attribute selector? I am going to select everything that has a type of checkbox. Okay, what is this selector? This is something new that we have seen. For example, dot something was class selector, right? And we have seen so many things, but these brackets here, this is actually attribute selector. This means go ahead and select everything that has a type attribute. But this means go ahead and select everything that has a type attribute and the type attribute is on checkbox. So now that we have selected this everything that has a checkbox type, we can give it another test CSS property. For example, we can set the display on none. Okay, let's come back here. So here the display is on block, but here it says display on none. Let's come back here, hit refresh. Okay, and come back here, hit refresh. The thing is, this display none has actually been applied to this, but it has a stronger selector which is saying to set the display on block. So if we, for example, uncheck that or make that a stronger selector, or use something called important. So we are learning so many different things here. So this important means this display none is important, and you should apply it over anything else. So before adding this thing here, before adding this important here, the display none was ignored and display block was applied. And now hit refresh. As you can see, now this is ignored and this is being applied. So we actually learned so many things here, so many different things here. So first of all was this not selector, and we know how does it work. And the second thing that we learned was this type and type selector, sorry, this attribute selector, and the third one was this important. Okay, so now that we learned so many things, now let's combine everything together, and instead of saying that not test classes, we can say not everything that except those checkboxes. So this piece of code here means go ahead and select every input inside this general form, but except those with checkbox type. So the syntax is actually quite complicated and quite complex, but I wanted to use something complex here. There are so many other ways to fix that, so many other different ways, different approaches to fix it, but I wanted to use this syntax exactly because this syntax is actually a little complicated, and I wanted to give you a complicated selector and see if you can handle this. So if you cannot handle this right now, and just try a little harder and dig a little harder, and you will understand this line of code eventually. But because I'm trying to prepare you for complicated stuff, so that's why I use this complicated syntax and try to understand this and understand why does it work. So it selects every input inside this general form here, okay, except we have a not select, except those who have a checkbox type. So what happens is that all of them have these properties. They all of them have a display block and width 100%. This all of them has width 100 pixel, except this one which has a type attribute. So that's why I can go ahead and duplicate some of them here for this. United States, Brazil, Canada, France, Brazil, and come here, and Canada, and France. Okay, so let's come back here, hit refresh. As you can see, now all of them are being applied here. So this is United States, Brazil, Canada, and France here. But there's something here that we need to fix. When we click on this checkbox, it actually works, okay? But when we click on the text itself, it doesn't work and it's not working. Well, we can use that with label and for. As you can see here, we already use that. For example, when I click on this first name, this is something that is being focused, or this. So we can actually use label and for this. For example, we can say actually put that inside a label. Okay, label, and put that inside a label, United States, and give it an ID here, ID, and give it, for example, the ID would be USA, for example, here, and this is for USA. And come back here, hit refresh. As you can see, when I click on the text itself, the checkbox is actually being checked and unchecked, but the other ones no. So one way is actually to use this ID and label. The other way that usually some people do is that they put the input itself, inside this label tag. So this is what happens, and we do not need to use for an ID for this. So that's a little simpler, but this is something that we can use for checkboxes. So hit refresh, and as you can see now, the United States is actually working. But something that I forgot, that the input needs to come first, then the text needs to come. So come back here, hit refresh, and as you can see, this is it. So this is it, and we can put this span, put this United States inside the span tag. And the reason that I do that, if in future want to select this tag, I actually can select this because it's now inside a tag. But before that, if I wanted to select this select this directly, there was no way. So that's why I choose to put that inside the span tag. So I can double click on this, hold Alt, double click, hit Control X, that I can cut this, hit Control L, backslash, and for this Control Shift D, Control Shift D, Control Shift D, and double click on this, and highlight this, Control D, and Control V. So now we have all of them here with this new syntax here. But there's another thing that we need to fix, is that if you take a look at this, all of them are inside a separate line, and we need to fix that as well. So we can actually come here and select all of these labels here, and make them block display, or I don't know. Yeah, maybe I want to use that, make them block or something. So in this form group, I can give another class to this. So this is actually a form group, like all the other one. It has a 25% width. The parent has a flex display because the parent is form div. But I give it an extra class for this, and I call it Checkboxes. Okay, and I can go ahead and select all of these checkboxes, the form group that has a class of checkboxes. So I can go ahead and select every label inside that. So this is now my selector. So go ahead and select every label which is exactly inside something that has a form group class and a checkboxes class, and this is inside this form div. So this way that I write my CSS code is from top to down. This is something that I like to write. If you don't like it, you can just write it like this, and it's completely okay. And if you can even completely just write it like this as well. So it's up to you if you like this syntax or if you like the other syntax. Which one do you like? And it's just up to you, and none of them is wrong and none of them is right. It's just up to you. So I'm going to select every label, and I'm going to give it a display of block. Okay, and when I set the display to block, what happens is that we have this section here, and all of them are here. So these are the 4 things that we wrote, and we can actually duplicate these and write all the other ones here. So let's put the speed of the video on fast mode. And now that I have written every country here, so we can come back here and hit refresh, and as you can see, this is the result that we have. So this is it. That's enough for this session, and in the next session we are going to fix the radio checkboxes, and this is it. That's enough. Hope to see you in the next session.